Hey gang, what's up? Welcome back here to another edition of the Fishing Teacher, and thanks for checking out today's videos. And you can see it's a different surrounding tonight. I'm still out at Lake Eufaula competing in the BFL regional tournament down here. So I've been really trying to do these videos just anytime I can. So sorry about getting it out a little bit late today. But anyway, we're going to talk about muddy water in today's video. Going to give you guys some just sort of a good foundation as far as some information on how to deal with muddy water situations and really what the fish do in those scenarios there. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this video today is the area that I was fishing today, it got muddied up from some pretty heavy rain we had last night, and it really sort of had a negative effect on the fishing in that particular area. So we're going to get into that. So first of all, let's classify what muddy water is. Muddy water is sort of different for everybody, because some people consider muddy water, 2 foot clarity, and some people consider it, 2 inches clarity. That really just depends on where you're from. If you're from, parts of the country that frequently have muddy water, you're really familiar with it. But if you're fishing in more natural lakes or, far south or far north, you probably don't deal with it too much. Most of the lakes that get muddy or has muddy water have some type of a sand or clay banks on it that muddy up quick. But also you can get muddy water in any lake just from a hard rain and some runoff in there. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about what muddy water does to fish. Now, when I'm talking about muddy water, I'm talking about the water that is dirtier than normal. So let's say, for example, if you're fishing a lake like Table Rock Lake in Missouri or Lake Lanier in Georgia, those are clear water lakes. So the mud in those particular lakes are situational based upon heavy rains. But if you're fishing a lake like, say, where I'm at in this tournament, Lake Eufaula in Oklahoma, you have muddy water in certain parts of the lake all year long. So there's a differing effect to that as far as how the fish are affected by it. Now, here's a general rule of thumb, what you can expect with muddy water. If you get a situation where you have some muddy water in a lake that's normally clean a little bit, and that muddy water is created by some heavy runoff, it can be a positive thing under certain situations if it's not too muddy. There's a difference between the water getting muddy and chocolate milk muddy. Chocolate milk muddy is where you got like no visibility or like an inch or 2 visibility, and other muddy water can be 6 or 8 or 10 inches of visibility. Those situations can be good, because a lot of times what it does, if the water muddies up but it's not chocolate milk, it'll move those fish shallower, and you can catch them on a big baits like a big spinner bait or a big square bill crankbait or chatterbait or a jig or something like that. And really, anytime the water is over about, say, 55 or 60 degrees, this usually happens like that. Now, if you've got a lake like Lake Eufaula, for example, where it's muddy in some of the areas, like today where I was, yesterday we had like a foot of visibility, and today it was cut down to like 4 inches or 5 inches of visibility. Sometimes that can have a negative effect on the fish, which it did today for me. The fish didn't bite in that scenario. I caught some small fish in there, but when you have a quick water change like that on an area that's already muddy, a lot of times it has sort of a negative effect. Normally what happens is when you get fresh mud from a rain or from some type of flow coming into the lake, it takes a little bit of time for those fish to condition to it. So in other words, let's say, for example, you get a hard rain and the water gets muddy overnight. Most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, it takes a day or two for those fish to move up and start really acclimating to that muddy water. So right off the bat, normally it isn't that great, but once it settles down a little bit and the sediment starts to settle a little bit, the water can still be muddy or off-colored, but it can still be a little bit better. The main thing with muddy water, guys, is there's 2 different things to remember anytime you're dealing with muddy water, is you have to change your approach. You have to go shallow. When the water gets muddy, the fish move to the bank, almost without exception to that. And this is the time of year or the situation where you need to use baits that displace a lot of water. What I mean, displace water, larger baits that put more vibration out and they move more water when you run them. Say, for example, A spinner bait with a big blade is going to put out a lot of vibration and move a lot of water, or a big square bill crankbait with a wide wobble on it is going to make commotion and noise. And that's what attracts those fish, because in muddy water, fish can't see a bait very good, if at all, and they have to pick up the bait from their lateral line. Now, bass has the black line down a bass's side. That is used to basically detect sound, vibration, sound, movement in the water, water that's being pushed, anything like that. And that is why you want to use those lures that are loud or wobble hard or put out a lot of vibration in muddy water. That's always usually good with that. But like I said, muddy water, there's not one rule that fits all. It's like sometimes it can be a benefit and it can help you out, and sometimes it can really, really hurt you. But in general, if you lose half of your water visibility real quick, like in a 1 day's time, that usually turns the fish off a little bit. It usually takes a day or two for those fish to acclimate, especially if you have a lot of floating stuff on the surface. And, it's just, fish just get inactive in that situation. They just don't bite very good with it. Main thing I can give you guys as far as dealing with muddy water is move shallow, fish baits that put out a lot of vibration and move water, and that's the best way you can really deal with it. So anyway, guys, we'll get back here next week to the normal video scenarios and times, and appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you later.